Welcome back to Gemma Movie Recap. In today's video, we will be recap a war drama film entitled Beast of No Nation from 2015. Let's chill out and enjoy.
But before we start, please support our channel by subscribing and click the bell icon for future notifications. Now, let's start.
The movie begins with a kid named Agu sells a broken TV which he calls imaginary TV to a man, but declines. Fortunately, he's able to sell it to a soldier. Agu and his family are living in the buffer zone where it is safe from the war at the moment. At home, we see Agu's family living peacefully. His mother takes care of him and his siblings, while his father, who was a teacher before the war, became the sector chief and helps the refugees that come to the buffer zone. One day, Agu, with his brother and friends, block the road with a branch and ask drivers for money, when a crazy old woman appears, scolds them, and calls them thieves. Back at home, Agu's family is happily eating when his father notices his TV. It turns out that Agu purposely breaks the TV to sell it. Agu quickly runs and hides from his father. The next day, the current situation of the war is being broadcasted in the radio, but Agu is not listening. He's busy making fun of his sleeping grandfather. Then, we see trucks of soldiers arrive in their village. During a meeting, the majority decided that the women and children will flee to the city's capital, while men will stay to protect their properties. At home, Agu's mother and father are arguing about the fleeing, while he and his older brother are playing a board game. The father plans to take his wife and young children to the city the following day, but Agu is unable to go. His father makes an unsuccessful attempt to haggle with the driver. The father had no choice but to make a promise to his wife that they would locate them once everything was finished. Agu, his father, brother, and grandpa are ultimately the only ones still in the community. After that, we witness Agu and his family dodging gunfire during a shootout. Thankfully, they are able to disappear. Looking out the window, Agu's father sees the government troops and rebels exchanging gunfire, but he is shocked to discover a cannon pointed in their general direction. Others attempt to run after they arrive at the location where they are hiding, but are shot when they open the door. Agu and his family, along with the other men, surrender to the government soldiers. Outside, the forces round up the men and ask if they're affiliated with the rebels, which Agu's father quickly denies. Agu's father introduces himself as the sector chief and says they're just ordinary citizens protecting their properties. But the soldier calls on the crazy old woman and asks if she knows the men, to which she responds that she didn't. She also adds that they are probably rebels. Agu's father tries to reason with the soldiers and persuade them that the woman is crazy, but the soldier accuses them of being enemy spies and has them put to death. As directed by their father, Agu and his brother flee as he and other men are shot. Unfortunately, during their escape, Agu's brother is also killed, leaving Agu as the sole survivor. He keeps making his way out of the bushes, where he spent days wandering and sprinting. One day, he immediately follows a child he sees, but the child has already left. Later, we see Agu involved in a shooting and being attacked by the child he had previously seen. Other men show up and turn out to be the Native Defense Forces or the NDF soldiers. They capture Agu, thinking that he's one of the enemies. Then the man known as the Commandant, the leader of the NDF, arrives and asks about Agu. He asks who brought him, to which another child soldier named Strika responds that he does. Commandant then asks Agu what he's doing there, to which Agu responds by telling him what happened to his family. The Commandant asks him to say his name proudly and decides he will join NDF. He will train along with the others. They then proceed to march back to their camp. Everyone at the camp bows down to the Commandant. Another soldier is assigned Agu to train in the interim. When we next meet him, he is the lone soldier who is not eating. He requests food, but a soldier informs him that only troops are allowed to eat. The Commandant then summons Strika, which is heard. Agu begins his training in the new scene. He also asks God to grant him a visit with his mother. We witness them being lectured by another soldier about their rights and how the enemies are taking them away, as 2IC claims that the NDF is gradually winning the battle. After enduring training, a blessing ritual, and initiation, we then see Agu and other kids formally joining the NDF. As they prepare to leave, the Commandant gives them the order to clear the area. They conduct an ambush mission on a bridge the following day. They waited for the proper moment to ambush the adversaries and were successful. The Commandant then summons Agu and gives him the command to execute a captured individual. The Commandant strikes the man despite his pleas and claims that he is only a pupil. Agu is hesitant to kill the man, but after the Commandant provokes him, he uses a machete to cut off the victim's head. The Commandant then orders Strika to help Agu, and the two hack the man to death. The commandant then gives 2IC the order to hand Agu a gun. Agu catches it and drops on his knees, puking. He shares his actions with God. Later, Strika comes up to Agu and hands him the looted clothing from the defeated foes. Agu tries to speak with him, but he won't answer. Strika is just communicating with her body. When a soldier brings refugees, the scene switches to the commandant talking to his soldiers about the food and women in their new community. He informs the others that the enemy has already taken the refugee town. The following day, we witness 2IC's unit taking the lead in regaining a bridge. The commandant is asked for assistance, but all he does is stress how crucial 2IC's task is. He then summons Agu and offers him a gun scope through which to view the conflict. They then charge into the field and start fighting. After dusk, Strika takes Agu to the commandant, who compliments Agu on his performance. Then he comments to Agu that he makes him think of his younger self. He emphasizes the significance of being a good follower in order to become a good leader. He then invites Agu into his room, where he lies down after taking a whiff of burning gunpowder. The scene is cut to outside the room as he commands Agu to bend down. The following day, Agu appears disoriented. When a soldier sees that, he gives him brown, which makes Agu euphoric. The commandant then informs them that there are many opponents at the village they will visit next. Vans from the United Nations pass them as they leave. Then we see Agu and other troops entering the area and opening fire on everyone they see. They later discover a woman and child sheltering inside a building. Agu gives the woman a short hug, but she is not his mother. Strika dragged the kid outside in the meantime. He swiftly lets go and brands the woman a witch after realizing that she is not his mother. He observes Strika and other people beating the child outside, asking if God is watching him. Agu shoots the woman in the head who's being raped by other soldiers. The scene changes to the commandant watching his men putting grenades on enemies' mouths when he receives a letter from the Supreme Commander Goodblood. The Supreme Commander is calling for them. As they're about to leave, the grenades explode. He then tells a soldier to leave one civilian alive to warn other villages that they are coming. He also tells them that Agu and Strika will be part of the squad from there on. Then they move out. Afterward, we see the commandant and his squad are greeted by the deputy. He leads them into a waiting area where another foreigner is waiting to talk to Supreme Commander Goodblood. After some time, the deputy calls on the foreign first, and it took a long while before they're called on, pissing the commandant. The deputy apologizes and leads them to a room where they fell asleep waiting. The next day, Supreme Commander Goodblood calls them and orders Commandant's men to eat while the Commandant and 2IC stay. Supreme Commander Goodblood talks about the changes in the situation of the war. He then promotes the Commandant to Deputy Chief of Security, while his battalion will be under 2IC. 2IC is thanking the Supreme Commander when the Commandant cuts him off and tells him to leave. When the Commandant is alone with Supreme Commander Goodblood, he confronts him of the changes that are happening. The Supreme Commander then reveals that the war is being known outside their country, and with the United Nations involvement, it has become a battle for public image. The Commandant is not in favor of the changes, but Supreme Commander Goodblood reminds him that he is a soldier and it is his duty to obey. The Commandant finally departs, claiming that he still has one night with his men. The Commandant and his troop now arrive at his old buddy Mama's house, where they engage in drinking and sexual activity. He sounded as though he didn't want to celebrate his and 2IC's promotion. The Commandant refuses 2IC's request for permission to leave so he can check the other units. Then, after asking Mama where the women are, she calls them in response. She claims, however, that she does not have any women for Agu or Strika, only men. Agu and Strika are left alone to drink as the guys depart with their girlfriends. After some time, Strika falls asleep, but Agu is eyeing a young woman, but she's not interested in him. Suddenly, they hear a gunshot and are surprised when their comrades bring out 2IC with a gunshot. It turns out that the woman with him accidentally shoots him while playing with his gun. This makes the Commandant angry. The woman tries to flee, but Agu quickly shoots her as Strika shoots Mama. Then, Agu sniffing burnt gunpowder. He then checks on 2IC, which tells him that everything they have done is for nothing. Afterward, we hear on a radio that everyone is looking for their unit. The Commandant calls on Agu, and Agu takes the chance to tell him that 2IC is dear. Later, the battalion offers prayers over the body of 2IC. The Commandant then instructs his men to seize their area on their own, because not even Supreme Commander Goodblood is their enemy. Agu comes to the realization that the only way out of this battle is through death as the battalion departs, leaving 2IC's corpse with worms eating it. They are awakened by missile attacks during the night while they are sleeping, killing their friends. When daylight arrives, they continue to move, although Stricker resisted going. When Agu goes to check on him, he is shot. Thus, despite his own exhaustion, Agu carries Stricker. Then, Agu tries to talk to Stricker, but he finds out that he's already dead. Although grieving for the death of his friend, Agu has no other choice but to continue moving. Agu is now being told to obtain ammunition by a soldier. He goes to the Commandant and informs him that they are out of ammunition. The new 2IC also approaches the Commandant in the meantime and informs him that they wish to depart. The new 2IC remarks that it has been months and they have already ran out of ammunition, food, water, and money while asking other soldiers if they want to leave. The Commandant argues that the soldiers have no life outside of the fight, despite the fact that other men appear to wish to leave as well. The new 2IC raises his voice and points a gun at the Commandant, but he is aware that he is out of ammunition. Agu suddenly raises his weapon to the Commandant. He then asks Agu if he wants to surrender as well, to which he says yes. Pissed, the Commandant tells them to leave but confidently assures them that they'll come back to him after they realize that they made the wrong decision. Thinking that Agu will stay with him, the Commandant is surprised to see Agu walking away with other soldiers. Agu and the others are then seen giving up. Agu is taken to a missionary school, where he receives counseling along with other young warriors. Agu, however, is having trouble playing with other kids and is having nightmares. Then, recognizing that the Commandant's statements are accurate, Preacher and Randy, Agu's NDF teammates, flee and re-enter the fray. The following day, Amy, a psychotherapist, speaks with Agu and persuades him to be more open. Agu, however, is concerned that if he tells her what he went through and what he did, she will perceive him as a kind of beast. Instead, he begins by describing his family to her. The movie ends with Agu finally joining other kids for a swim, and finally having fun. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more recap videos and see you.